So, so now, coming to the next paper for the session. So second paper is Context and WSD, around the same theme of word sense disambiguation. Analyzing Google Translate's Sanskrit to English output of Bhagavad-Gītā verses for word meaning by Anaga Prateep, Radhika Mamidi, and Pavan Kumar Satuluri. So Anaga Prateep will be presenting the paper. So you are from IIIT Hyderabad, yeah, and Pavan Kumar Satuluri is from IT Roorkee.
So I'm Anagha Pradeep from IIIT Hyderabad, and I'll be presenting my paper, Context and WSD, Analyzing Google Translate's Sanskrit to English output of Bhagavad Gita verses for word meaning. Yeah. So we see an exponential growth in artificial intelligence to have machines that can simulate human behavior in analyzing, understanding languages. And we all know that humans have the innate ability to understand and analyze languages, which means the part of disambiguating a word having multiple senses is fundamentally natural for humans. And this is mainly because the humans have access to context and world knowledge. So several NLP applications like machine translation, they deal with language complexities among which subtasks such as word sense disambiguation are also dealt with. And just for your information, WSD is the task of identifying the right meaning of a word that has multiple senses based on the given context. And it is very necessary to determine the meaning of each word in a context in order to make sense of the entire text. However, it is not a straightforward undertaking for a machine. So how do machines learn? Language modeling has been very helpful in advancing machines in language intelligence. And pre-trained language models such as transformers, they use large-scale unlabeled corpora for their training and have shown great progress in various NLP tasks. So therefore, we can say a language model learns language and context through a good amount of data. In 2022, Google Translate expanded its language repertoire to include Sanskrit and 23 other languages, bringing the total number of translatable languages to 133. And Google Translate uses the transformer architecture. So this is given by Google. They give a statistics of the data they've used and the data that is available on the web and the data they've used to train their model. And for English, we can see it is 7,388 million. And for Tamil, it is 220 million. For Hindi, it is 165 million. And when we come to Sanskrit, it is 6 million, which is almost 0.8 times the English. So, what we attempt to do is outline the importance of increased context, that is in the form of training data for Sanskrit, through a manual error analysis of word meanings in the translation output of Bhagavad Gita. And we also propose a taxonomy of these word meaning errors and explore the potential areas where an increase in the contextual knowledge, that is in the form of data, could enhance ambiguity resolution. Next. So our motivation to choose Bhagavad Gita was our curiosity to witness how a machine would translate a profound text, profound philosophical text such as this, and how far it can capture intricacies, and also because it is morphologically simpler as compared to other classical literary texts in Sanskrit. So the verses for the part of the data, verses were obtained from Samsadhani, and the translations were obtained through Google Translate API. So our error analysis were done with the help of two benchmark human English translations, that was Jayadayal Goenka's Bhagavad Gita Tattva Vivechani and Swami Mukundananda's Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God. And additionally, we also derived support from Monier-Williams Sanskrit English Dictionary to augment our accuracy. So this was the category of errors that we came up with, errors that arose from incorrect selection of the polysemous words, errors that arose from compounding, errors that arose from highly knowledge sensitive words, and errors that arose from an incorrect meaning attribution. Yes, so words that have multiple senses are known as polysemous words. And given a polysemous word, the context, that is, the neighboring words, play a crucial role in disambiguating as to which sense is to be taken. For example, the word hari in Sanskrit has 14 meanings, and this is how. So when I gave these sentences to Google Translate, this is what we received. I said harihi khadati, it said hari eats. I said harihi kadali phalam khadati, it said hari eats bananas. But when I said harihi vrikshesmin kadali phalam khadati, the sense of hari was disambiguated, and I got the monkey is eating bananas on this tree. I did try modifying the context to obtain other meanings, but it was not possible. It didn't give me the meanings. So within the translation outputs that we generated, 139 of the 700 verses could be attributable to the incorrect selection of the sense of those polysemous words. And so we tried to categorize this into two, where the error identified polysemous words meaning could be adjusted by altering the context, and that which remain unchanged regardless of contextual modifications. So I'll explain this with examples. So the first example we took, api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakrittamah sarvam jnana plavenaiva vrajinam santarishyasi. So the Google Translate translated this as, even if you are the most sinful of all sinners, you will cross all troubles by the float of knowledge. So the word plava has been translated as float here. And when we compared it to the human translation and also the other, the Bonnier-Williams dictionary, so we wanted the sense of boat in this context. And to see if Google Translate recognizes the sense of boat, I gave a sample sentence telling Ramaha plavena nadim tarati, and it translated it as Rama crosses the river by boat. So it did identify the sense of boat, which is one of the senses. Next. In the other verse, kim karma kima karmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshami yajñatva mokshate shubhat. So here the word kavi is polysemous, and it was translated as, even the poets are confused here as to what is action and what is inaction. So kavi has multiple meanings, such as a wise person, a poet, and names of various deities. But the sense that we wanted in this context was a wise person. And I tried giving a sample sentence where I said, kavihi sarvada sanmargi chalati, where again I wanted the sense of wise, but this was again not recognized. So the only sense that was recognized by Google Translate with respect to kavi was poet. So that was about polysemous words. The next category was compounding. So compounding, as we all know, is a prevalent linguistic feature where multiple words are merged to create a single lexeme, and the purpose is to achieve brevity in language, aiming to express in fewer words the intended meaning. So grasping the meaning of a compound can be intricate because they possess multiple possible interpretations, and especially because they are dependent on contextual clues. So we identified instances where meaning errors arose either because the compounds were interpreted wrong, or it was there was no interpretation at all. So this was one example. Adrishta purvam hrushitosmi drishtva bhayena cha pravyatitham manome tadeva me dashaya deva rupam prasida devesha jagannivasa. So the word jagannivasa, it is a compound, and this was translated by Google as O inhabitant of the universe. So jagannivasa can either mean inhabitant of the universe or the one in whom the world resides. So we wanted the second sense, that is the one in whom the world resides. But so yeah, we can see in the human translation, O abode of the universe. So that is the sense we wanted, but Google Translate did not recognize that. And the second example, Abrahma bhuvanan lokaha punaravartino arjuna, mam upetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. So the compound Abrahma was translated as the Abrahma world. And so it was supposed to be up to the abode of Brahma, which was not recognized. So we also observed that the occurrence of errors that were related to compounds were relatively less as compared to polysemy and other errors. This is because what we observed was compounds were identified as single words and were translated accurately. So, for example, we also checked with simpler sentences where we said, Aham Ramalayam Gachami, I am going to Ramalaya. So, Ramalaya was identified as a single word, but nevertheless, it wasn't translated as such. Aham Vidyalayam Gachami. So, Vidyalaya was mapped to school. Ganeshaha Lambodaraha Asti. It said Ganesha is tall, which is wrong. It should have been Ganesha is a fat belly, and Bhimaha Vrukodaraha Asti was accurately translated as Bhima is a wolf belly. So even in cases where the machine may be trained on various interpretations of the compound, determining which interpretation is to be taken based on the context can still be a challenging task. So our next category is because of knowledge-sensitive terms or So errors stemming from words that are sensitive to cultural, social, philosophical nuances are quite common in machine-generated content, and we also observe that machines often struggle to recognize the senses of words, especially if they hinge deep on a deep grasp of human culture. So, for example, we took this verse, Panchajanyam Hrishikesho Devadattam Dhananjayah Poundram Dadmau Mahashankam Bhima Karma Vrukodaraha. So the Google Translate translated this as Hrishikesha married Panchajanya, Arjuna married Devadatta, Bhima Karma blew the great conch of Poundra. So Panchajanya, Devadatta, Poundra have been recognized as either entities or a place. In case of Poundra, it is a place, and in case of Panchajanya and Devadatta, it is people. And to our surprise, there is no verb that describes, that corresponds to marry in this verse at all. So that was another thing. And so this is because we thought there might have been similar instances of such sentences in the training data, and probably that is why. And the last category that we came up with, so unlike the polysemous errors where the machine took one of the senses listed, here completely different. Like this didn't even have any relevance. So for example, ayaneshu cha sarveshu yatha bhagam avastitaha bhishmamevabhirakshantu bhavantas sarve evahi. So situated in their proper places in all the moons. So the word ayana was translated as moons, which is not even one of the listed senses of ayana. So I'll show you a statistics of how many errors we came across. Yeah. Next. So we came up with 139. So out of the 700 verses, we observed that 139 verses had errors that could be attributable to wrong sense identification of the polysemous words. 25 where meanings were incorrect, like for example the ayana example. 40 that were because of highly knowledge sensitive, cultural sensitive verses, and 12 because of compounding. Like I said, the compounding ones were relatively lesser. So we just tried out a few other experiments to see how sandhi and the presence or absence of a few words impacted translation. And so for sandhi, when I said, So when I said Harihi Vrikshesmin Kadali Phalam Kadati, Hari was translated as monkey because Vrikshesmin was a sandhi there. But when I gave Harihi Vrikshe Asmin Kadali Phalam Kadati, Hari remained Hari, was not translated as monkey. The same happened with the Bhagavadgītā verse where I said Udasinavad Asinam Asaktam. It said indifferent as if indifferent, which actually makes no sense. But when I split the sandhi and I gave Udasinavat Asinam Asaktam, it said seated as if indifferent. So that was the actual translation that was required, but so it only happened when I split the sandhi. Yes, so this was another curious experiment. So when I checked this, when I went through this verse, the ye yatha mam prapadyante, the word prapadyante was translated as worship, but the sense that was required was surrender. And so I just tried out converting the verse into a sentence, and I just wanted to see if I could get the meaning. So I said, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tan tata aham bhajami iti Bhagavan Krishnaha Bhagavadgītāyam avadat. It still didn't change the sense. Again, I tried swapping the sentence structure and I said, Bhagavan Krishnaha Bhagavadgītāyam ye yatha mam prapadyante tan tata aham bhajami iti avadat. It still didn't say, it still didn't change, it remained the same. But when I removed the word aham, I got the sense of surrender. So when I said, Bhagavan Krishnaha Bhagavadgītāyam ye yatha mam prapadyante tan tatha bhajami iti avadat. I removed aham and it said surrender. However, another interesting thing is here, for bhajami, it translated that as reward. I reward. When I converted it to sentence, that went. And it became worship again. So I was very curious about this word Hari, and I tried multiple experiments to see if it could capture other meanings, if at all possible. So when I gave these sentences, all of them are of the same format, but only in case of the fourth sentence, that is Harihi Vrikshesmin Upavishya Pashyati, it translated Hari as Hari. We couldn't come with any possible conclusions as to why this was happening. So, yes. Yeah. Next. Yes. So, the objective of our study was to underscore the significance of context. So, what we thought was, given more data, given more instances where these different sense of polysemous words may be trained, then in case of polysemy, the performance of the machine might improve. And to address this, we illustrated how more context could potentially reduce errors, like I said. So we assessed the Google Translate output of Bhagavad Gita to come up with a taxonomy and see if polysemy was the highest, is the error because of polysemy, or are there other errors? And because we also identified 3 other error categories, that is compounding, knowledge sensitive, and incorrect meaning attribution. So while the increased contextual learning might help to mitigate issues pertaining to these 3 errors to some extent, it still might not be very successful unless we confront the fact that machines have to be instilled with world knowledge in order to. So these are my the references that I've used as a part of this presentation are these, but I have several other references. Thank you.
Now, time for questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I was wondering, why did you decide to use Google Translate and not, for example, ChatGPT? Because it's much better with recognizing Sandhi forms, contextual knowledge. It could even recognize that the verse is from the Bhagavadgītā.
Yeah. So actually, when I conducted these experiments, ChatGPT was not out yet.
Thank you. Are you aware of any benchmarks for like comparing the results of machine translated results? There are some benchmark systems. Like, are you aware of them? Like to count the quality of the machine translation. Like Sanskrit is not the very first language we treated with Google Translate. So, are you aware of any such systems like benchmark systems?
No, not really.
To score the quality. Okay, right.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Are you aware of them?
Blue score and
like that kind,
yeah.
Because I didn't saw it here, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was a manual error analysis.
Alright.
I didn't go for any benchmarks as such.
Does it make any sense for Sanskrit, the benchmark system?
Yeah, we do have for Sanskrit as well.
Okay.
I will add to what she's saying to your question. See, there are benchmarks available for various machine translation systems. What she has done is the qualitative analysis. Benchmarks just give the quantitative analysis.
Regarding the polysemous words, you said some are adjustable, some are non-adjustable by context. So, out of those 139 errors, is there a breakup available, which or they were just some of them were randomly checked, or do you have a classification of those 139 errors into these two categories?
I do have it, but I don't have a count of it. I'll let you know. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Because this translation is using some kind of language model, and I'm not sure if the errors that you found some instances where changing certain structure of the sentence fixed a polysemous error, but I'm not sure if this will happen in all the cases. So
so that's exactly why I categorized.
So each example, so for multiple meanings of Hari you have tried, but for multiple meanings of some other word, if the same thing repeats for these things, that can be a thing to be tried. And
sure.
so one of the things, so you said Hari Vruksha Posha Kadalifalam Khadati. There the monkey translation is correct. I mean, that is very context dependent, right? The Hari, the person, can also be sitting on a...
True, yes. But I just wanted to check if, associations, so when I checked with nearest association, is it able to disambiguate was my curiosity.
No, as in,
so banana
is that
and
even,
vriksha.
so if you tell this sentence to a human, would you expect the human to translate that as a monkey or as a person, Hari?
Yeah, so...
Because I wouldn't translate it as a monkey with, if I'm just given that sentence.
Yes, so... so if I go to a person who doesn't know Sanskrit and I say Harihi Vrikshesman Kadali Palam Kadati, where Kadali Palam means banana and Vriksha means tree, what would you disambiguate Hari as? The first thing that would come to anybody's mind was monkey, right? Would be monkey, right? Because of the association that it has to Vriksha and banana, Kadali Palam. Root, okay, yes. Huh.
So I am aware of the meanings of Kadali Phalam. I am aware of the meaning of Hari. This monkey is also a possible meaning, etc. But still, it is somehow not clear to me that this sentence should refer, because it is cited as an example of. I mean, you want to show the example of Hari as in that meaning. Therefore, you might have seen this example, and therefore that comes to your mind. But right.
In the vicinity of already
we can disambiguate or we can guess the meaning based on the siddha padas which are found in the vicinity. So I think that's what she's trying to say.
That's what I said with, if you take Bhartrihari Samsarga also, that is, with associations is how you disambiguate.
I have one question. So you have probably taken this Sanskrit to English. It's the languages are so different that obviously these errors will creep up. What about trying to translate the same sentence into Hindi or other Indian languages? Because the senses are much closer.
Yes. So I have the data ready for Sanskrit to Kannada and Telugu. I'm yet to do an analysis.
Okay, fine. That's number one. Number two, the other important point that you hinted at is to understand why this is happening.
Yeah.
Now, my suggestion, one way is to take the English translated sentence and try the reverse translation. Then you will try to see what is the Sanskrit sense that this English is using.
Yes.
And if you take this four or whatever, monkey and hari, whatever, then you will see why it is not translating.
Yeah, so with Hari, I gave Harihi Vrikshesmin Kadali Palam Khadati. It will translate it as, if I say the monkey,
it will become kapihi.
It will become kapihi only.
Correct. Yeah. But this upavishya versus, I think, khadati and there was something, right? Upavishyati, right? So that is more interesting. So then you can try the reverse translation too.
Sure, yes.
In the case of Bhagavadgītā, I think still verse to prose will be a challenge even in Indian language context.
No, I am saying these errors, some of these errors may not be there because see, English as a language may not have all the senses of a word. Indian languages are much richer in that context. So you are using a very obviously weak opponent, if I may use this term, right? Trying to translate Sanskrit, which is a much larger sense, to an English, which is a much constricted sense, you are obviously going to get more errors. Probably Hindi or other Indian languages at least have some of these senses present. So may not be so many errors. I mean, it looks ghastly. This 25% errors. So, yeah.
Maybe the final.
Only trying to respond to what you said, sir. Let's say if we give Hindi and he says, Hari kela khata hai. So Hari is translated as Hari. It does not kind of need to even disambiguate because you know from your knowledge that Hari. So you will, as a human annotator, you will say this is fine. But we want to do disambiguation, right?
Yes.
Probably not.
Yeah. So.
Just one last thing. I also tried on the Anvaya. So I haven't analyzed the Anvayas. So giving Anvaya as the input, tried to obtain translation, but I haven't analyzed all the Anvayas yet. I'm just giving an example. That itself is another study, actually. So. When I gave the verse, Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohayasi me, tadekam vada nishchitya yena shreyoham apnuyam. So it said, you seem to be bewildering my mind with your confused words. Tell me that one thing for sure by which I may attain the best. This was a decent translation. So then when I gave the Anvaya, Vyamishrena iva vakyena me buddhim mohayasi iva, tat nishchityam ekam vada yena aham shreyaha apnuyam. It said, you seem to be bewildering my intelligence and not mine. So why this discrepancy is something I was interested in. I still haven't analyzed. I have to look for.
Yeah, very interesting talk, but in the interest of time, we will move to the next demos. So just one comment. I mean, so yeah, one thing Google Translate and the system keep on evolving. So whatever you said may not be valid anymore.
Yeah.
So there's one issue with each. And another thing is that we don't know how much of this is already there in their training data. They might be training on this, right?
Yes.
So Bhagavadgītā is anyway, yeah. So, but very interesting work, and I think it will give rise to many interesting future directions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now